Okay. Everybody see and hear me okay?
Yes.
Super.
If you manage a team, you have to try London.
Welcome everybody. Last one of the year, capping off the end of the year here at the London Excel Meetup group. Today we've got Paula to deliver a session on PivotTables, PivotTables Made Easy. And because it's our last session of the year, we're going to try and have a little bit of fun as well. So we've got a small quiz scheduled for kind of after the session to have a go at. And there's a meetup kind of gift up for award as well for those who kind of do the best in that quiz. And a few other questions and a bit of reminiscing over the year. And then the usual chit chat at the end, really. So we'll get to kind of Paula shortly for the main part of the session and to learn about pivot tables. Just a few things to say. As normal, first thing to mention is the only scheduled event. There's a couple in the works, as it will, but the only scheduled one next up, kicking off next year with Melina for some more Excel tricks. So we'll see what Melina wants to share. And that will be on a Wednesday the 13th. So, quite a while ago. We've got over a month until that yet. But that will be kickstarting the 2021 from Shawby. So I just realised I wrote the year wrong in that. Don't worry, we're not getting another 2020. That wouldn't be good news. But yeah, as London Meetup Group will go again. This is the last one of this year, though. And looking at the list actually here, like the list of people attending, there looks like there's a lot of people who have been with us pretty much all year, to be honest. There's quite a few names I recognise in there from even the very first session we had with each other, which is nice to see. We've got a few stats which Taya has compiled about our year with each other. Some of you have been with us the entire year. Some of you are a little bit newer. You may even be new this session, I don't know. But in total, including today, we've had 22 meetups. The meetup group was kind of born in January of this year. That was the first one we did. We ran them monthly until April and then kind of started doing them bi-weekly when obviously you know what happened, and running them online. In that time, we then racked up to 25 speakers, representing 11 or 12 countries. Depends if you split the UK to bring Wales in the mix, separate England and Wales. Across 5 different continents, and about that many numbers. Member-wise, I don't know what it's at the moment, but around that many. So it's been a pretty good year. Mark, who's not in the call, but a lot of you know Mark Proctor, Excel Off the Grid, who's someone close to and spoken to for a while. He'll know that I've been talking about doing a meetup for a good couple of years now. And I was always concerned whether it would work or not or generate the interest. So when it started in January, I was incredibly pleased. These are some images. Oz was there. He's on the call today. Where me and Oz delivered in January, the very first one. And a few of you on the call are in that picture right now. I think Vicky.
If you're sharing your screen, we can't see it.
Oh, you're not sharing it? Oh, damn. Should have yelled early over me. Let me do it. Here we go. You see that?
Oh, yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Who's that guy with a book? Yeah, so that was pretty good. We had about 30 odd there. I don't know what that number is. I see Raj is on the call. Can see him at the back there today. And that was very successful. And then moving into the second event in February, this is our normal venue. If any of you guys get to go and see there in person, Jacek sitting next to me there. I think he's on the call at the moment. I think I saw his name. John Spain, a lot of you know, Phil McDonnell at the front. Hiran, a lot of you heard him plays guitar at some point in the middle there. So it's been great to see you guys. This is basically a thank you at the moment because a lot of you, as I say, you're here now, you've been with us nearly every single session out of this entire year, which has been, it's been very nice for me to see. I'm very thankful for that. And also we've picked up a lot of new members on the way and have kind of gone international in that time as well.
So where did that XLOOKUP shirt come from?
Thieved it off someone's back, London style. And it fit me just about. Yeah, it's good. You want one? Want an index match set?
Hell no.
Oh, never mind.
You need a Lambda one now, don't you?
Yeah.
Keep calm and Lambda on.
Different shirt for every day of the month. Cool. So I don't want to keep you guys too much. Just wanted to show a few images from the year and say a bit of a thank you, which I'll probably do at the end again. And we'll rock with Paula, and then we'll get a quiz and a bit of a kind of chat after. Paula, are you ready to take over the reins and do some pivot table stuff?
Okay, no problem. I'll just share my screen. Okay, so everybody can see my screen okay, yeah?
Yeah.
Yep.
Great stuff. Okay, start with a quick introduction. Most of you here probably know me already. My name is Paula Guilfoyle. I am from Ireland. Just a little bit of a background. I'm a mother of two. I'm a CPA accountant. I am an Excel lover and an MVP. Outside of all of that, I have a massive interest in blockchain technology and Web3. And if any of you have any questions that you don't get a chance to put forward this evening, my contact details are on the screen at the moment. Just a little picture of the streets of Dublin. This is St. Anne's Cathedral in Dublin. It's just a nice little picture that I thought I would share with you today. So what we're going to look at is pivot tables. I'm going to make the assumption that you are here to learn about pivot tables and not just to heckle me. So I'm going to start from the start. I'm going to go through it nice and slow. We're going to start at the basics and then build a level up. I'm not going to talk for the full hour because I know Alan has a nice little quiz. Alan and Tia prepared a nice little quiz for after so that we can have a little bit of fun. So we start by showing you the data that I'm going to work with. I set up some sample data. It is some sales data, and basically the columns that we have is the date, invoice number, customers, regions, type, product, quantity, cost, and sales price. Now, this type of data is ideal for pivot tables because it contains both categorical data and numerical data. And pivot tables works both when you're working with both types of data. Now, when you're working with a pivot table, before you set up your pivot table, it's ideal that you have your data already cleaned and set up in a format that you can work with. Now, we're not going to go through cleaning data in this module, but Power Query is an awesome tool for cleaning data with, along with some of the text functions that you can use in Excel if you don't want to go as far as using Power Query. There's been a lot of sessions on Power Query, so I don't think I need to start importing data. So what we're going to do is set this up as a table, and then from a table, turn it into a pivot table. Now, before you can convert your data into a table, you need to make sure that there are no empty rows and no empty columns. If there's an empty row or an empty column within your data, Excel won't recognize it as being grouped together and won't group it all together as a table. So once you've set it up in the right format and that there's nothing else touching the border, so you see I have nothing to the left, nothing to the right, by placing the active key within any part of the data and pressing Control and T, you get the option to create a table, and you get your little create table dialog box. Now, in my case, my table does have headers, so I'll keep this ticked, and you should always create tables with headers so you know what is involved in the data. So now we have our table set up. Now, to know whether you have a table set up or not, because quite often somebody will format a table so it doesn't look like a table. In that case, if you click anywhere within the table, you'll get the extra tables ribbon, and that way you'll know that you're actually working with a table. Oh, I've just closed my screen. How do I get rid of the zoom thing from the top because it's covering my ribbons? It's okay, I got rid of it. Okay, so from the table design ribbon, if we open the table design ribbon, we can insert a pivot table directly from the table design ribbon. So from table design, we can select summarize with a pivot table. And this then selects the table that I have and allows me to insert a blank pivot table. So that's just one way that you can insert a pivot table, but there are other ways that you can insert pivot tables. So if we go to our insert ribbon, and from our insert ribbon, we can insert a pivot table from here, from our table or range, or alternatively, if we don't want a blank pivot table, or we're not 100% sure what it is that we're looking for in the data, we can use the recommended pivot tables. Now, when we use the recommended pivot tables, Excel will search through your data and will come up with a list of suggested pivot tables that Excel feels that you might find to be of use. So let's just select any of these pivot tables. I'll select the first one here. And we'll see that a new sheet opens up again with a pivot table. But unlike when you set up a pivot table from a table, as in summarize with a pivot table or set it up directly, this time the pivot table is set up with data included in it. There's items in your rows and there's items in your values dependent on the recommended pivot table that you suggest. Now, if I just hop back to the previous sheet, you'll see this pivot table is blank. So this is the one that I set up using summarize as using from the table feature summarize as pivot table. Now, when you set up a pivot table, you get some new stuff on your screen. You get two new ribbons. The first ribbon is pivot table analyze, and the second ribbon is a design ribbon. In addition to these two, you also get this pivot table fields list, which I have just dragged across and moved. Now you can move this around your screen. It doesn't have to be fixed over on the right where it was found. You can drag it around and have it in a place that suits you a little bit better. Within the pivot table field list, then you can also change how the pivot table field list looks too. So if you go into your settings here on your pivot table field list, you can set it up so that your fields and your filters are side by side, or you can set it up that you're showing fields only or areas only. I do prefer the standard layout where I have my fields down or my fields up the top and my boxes down the bottom. So this would be my preferred layout, but whatever layout that you're used to, do feel free to work with this. Now, what you find in this is all of the fields are the columns that were in your original data set. So we have date, invoice number, customer, region, type, product, quantity, cost, and sales price. So if we hop back to our data, we can see that these match all of the headers of the columns that we added into our pivot table. So columns become fields within your pivot tables. So we'll hop back in here. Now, to make an actual pivot table, all you need to do is drag your fields into these boxes down here. So if we take, for example, our region and we put our region into the rows, the regions that are in our data set are going to populate the rows down in the pivot table. So we see we have 3 countries, 3 regions. We can remove a field by just taking it out like this. Alternatively, we can add the field by ticking it in the actual fields list or unticking it to also remove it. Now, you don't have to just put fields in rows. You can also put fields into columns and you can put fields into filters. And we'll talk about filters a little bit later on. When you're working with categorical data, and if you put categorical data into your values, the default is for it to count. It's not going to be able to carry out calculations on text values. So the default is set to count. But if you put in a numeric field, the default is set to sum. So it's always going to aggregate your values based on sum unless you actually change by changing the values in here. And again, I will show you that later on. So what we've added in here at the moment is our region, and we've added in the sum of the quantity. So this is the quantity sold for each of these regions. Now, we mightn't want to see this. What we might want to see is the region by the customer, and we can drag the customer over into the columns, and now we can see the region by the individual customers. But that might not be the layout that you want either. You might also want to see the region also going down in the rows. And in this case, they go in a hierarchy format. And they can be moved around in the levels themselves by just dragging them around within the actual box. So now I have customers at the top, but if I drag this down, customers will move down. And you'll see there now I have region at the top and customers underneath. So using pivot tables, you can quite quickly summarize large sets of data in any format, in any category that you want, without needing to know complex formulas or carrying out lookups or anything else like that. We have a simple pivot table set up here now at the moment. So what we're going to look at is some design options in our pivot tables. I'm going to move this back out of the way. Pivot tables come with a basic standard layout. Now, this standard layout and the standard coloring isn't something that everybody likes, and people like to be able to present the pivot tables in custom colors or in branded colors or in things like that. In cases like this, we have these predefined pivot table styles, and you can select between different styles in here, and you can see the pivot table changing. So we've got some light styles which barely outline things. We then have some medium styles which will put lines across subtotals and grand totals. And then we have these darker styles as well. In addition to this, then you can also set up your own pivot table styles if you need something that isn't set up within the actual predefined styles themselves. Now, pivot tables are also set up to include totals and to include grand totals, but very often totals and grand totals might not make sense. For example, if I switch this data around again and I have the customer at the top and then I have the country, we can see that there is because there's only one field within each of these subheadings, there'd be no real reason to actually have subtotals, because the values are just repeating. So if you don't need your subtotals from the design ribbon, you can choose to not show subtotals at all. So this removes all of the subtotals from your pivot table. You can show all subtotals at the bottom of groups, and you can also show all subtotals at the top of your group. So again, dependent on your own style, on the layout that you want to have, you can choose the different options for your subtotals in here. Now you can also have grand totals, and we have options to change how these grand totals appear as well, or whether they appear or not. In this case, I only have a grand total on the row. I don't have some on the totals because of the data that I'm used. But you can turn them off for rows and columns. You can turn them on for rows and columns. You can show only rows, and if you had some in for columns, you can show only columns. So I'm going to just quickly turn them all back on again. Now I'm going to add in another field to this pivot table for a second. I'm also going to drag it down. I'm going to put it into my columns for a moment. The layout of this pivot table is in what they call compact form. So that is that anything that you have in the rows, it doesn't matter how many hierarchies you have, they'll all appear within the same row, within the same kind of, basically within the same row. And you can change how this appears. You can have these subheadings, or you can have them in an outline format. Now, when you move them into an outline format, it moves each hierarchy into a different column. It also, if you have not noticed, changes so that you have column headers on each of these. Now, if we go back here to show in compact form, the default in compact form is not to show a header. It says row labels and will always show labels unless you go ahead and overtype. And it's very easy to overtype and put in whatever it happens to be at the time. The only problem with that is that you're actually after hard coding this value in. And if you then go ahead and you change your pivot table and you remove your customers out from it, that hard-coded customer's title is still in there, but it makes absolutely no sense. So be very careful if you are actually doing something like that, that your titles make sense. Also in the report layout, you can show in tabular form. Now, the difference between tabular form and the outline form is that in the outline form, on each hierarchy, it'll skip a row when it moves into the next column. Whereas if you have it in tabular form, we see that that Germany moved up a cell and is in line with the hierarchy itself. So that's basically the difference there. Now, you'll also see here, we have Germany for fun days, and it's not the best. Hold on, I'll add in another column in here. Not the best set of data for this. Okay, we can fill these values down. So let's say in our fun days customer, we had a couple of different values, and we wanted this Germany to fill down into this cell, England to fill down into this cell, Ireland to fill down into the cell under, so it matches the values. In this case, you would use repeat all item labels, and this would fill down. Now, unfortunately, the data set in the pivot table that I have created doesn't actually allow for that, but if you need it, it's found under report layout and repeat all items. So that is some information on the layout. Now, in addition to the layout and to the styles, we have these expand contract buttons. Hold on, I just go back to our standard report layout, our compact form. So we have these expansion and we have these contraction buttons on our pivot tables. And these are based on the fields that we have in our rows and the hierarchy that we have actually set up. From our pivot table analyze ribbon, using these, we can click the expand fields button. This is going to expand all of these at once. You can also collapse fields, and this is going to collapse all of the fields at once. Now, this is very useful if you are working with fairly large pivot tables and you don't want to be scrolling up and down and you want to be able to quickly navigate between things, that you can use these expand and collapse features. There is also on these buttons here that we can see, we can hide and we can remove these buttons as well. So from the pivot table analyze ribbon, under the show group of commands, we have this plus minus button, and the plus minus button, as we press it, hides and unhides the option to expand and contract these particular fields. We also have in the show item, we have field headers. Now, we noticed earlier on, and I hadn't unhard coded the field header that was here, but when I remove that field header, it completely removes the field header from within here. So we see we can turn on and off that field header, and when it's set to the default, it is quite handy just to turn it off and have no header in there, rather than overtype, type in something wrong, or well, right at the time to change your pivot table and for it then to be wrong. So I find that hide field header to be very useful. What else have we got? We have groupings as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back into our data, and from our data, we're going to just set up another pivot table. So let us insert a pivot table. And I'm going to just insert a blank pivot table. And we are going to put in our dates into our rows. Now we see when we put our dates into our rows that they are automatically grouped, and they're grouped at the moment by year. And the default in Excel, this is relatively new, that they are grouped by year. This wasn't always the case, and you would have to manually group them. But now Excel will automatically group them. So you can expand and contract the groups as we did earlier on with the previous hierarchy that we set up. Now you'll notice when I dropped date down into rows down here, date doesn't actually appear. What we have is a date hierarchy. So we have years and we have quarters in here. So you might want to have months, you might want to have days, you might want to have other fields within here. If we go to our group selection, which we can find on our pivot table analyze ribbon. In here, we can easily see how the data has actually been grouped, and we can change the grouping that has been used. So let's change this so we have days, months, quarters, and years, and we can say OK. So now we see our pivot table has expanded. We have years, we have quarters, and we have months. So I'm going to collapse all fields to make that a little bit easier to see. Now you'll notice there when I collapsed all fields, not everything actually collapsed. And that's because I'm lower down in the hierarchy. I actually collapsed the field on groups or on months. So when you collapse it on a particular grouping, it's only that grouping that's going to collapse. So if I wanted to then collapse by quarters, I'd have to click on the quarter and then collapse the field by actual quarters. Once we have our grouping set up, any values that we put into our pivot tables will then be based on the groupings that we have. And if we expand our groupings or open up any of these, we can see the individual values then for the months or for the particular days as well. Now, the value we have in here is the sum of the quantity. And again, it's important that you remember that the aggregation is always set to sum until you make the changes that you need. For groupings, again, I'm going to just remove these values out for a second. And let's put in our customers. I'm going to take out our years. And let's put in our customers and let's put in our quantity. And we can group these text fields together as well. So let's just say that we had an additional category that wasn't included in our original pivot data. Let's say we had toys for big kids and we had toys for small kids. And this isn't part of our original setup. Well, we can use groupings to set up new types of categories. So let us select these three here, the first three, and we can select group selection. Now, when we select group selection, we see we have new fields. So let us just go back so you can see that again. I'm just going to undo that. So everything is in the one field at the moment. We select groups, press group selection, and we have this new group that's grouped all three of these together. Now what we can do is change the name of this grouping by just overtyping to Big Kids. And then we have a group called Big Kids. Over in our pivot table field list, you will now see under customers, we now have a thing called customers 2 because it is based on our customers field. And this is a new field that's now being added that we can use throughout our pivot tables. We can also group the other items together just by selecting the other items. Group selection, it's now group 2. And instead of calling this group 2, we can call this small kids, like spell. And then we have an additional grouping or an additional category that we originally didn't have when we were working with our original data set. Now you can also group numeric fields together. So what we looked at there was grouping categorical data together. So we can also group numerical fields together. So let's take everything out of there for a minute and we will put in our cost price. Instead, I'm going to remove the customer and I'm going to put our cost into our rows. So now we have the cost prices in here and let's put in a value. We will put a quantity into our value. And let's say we wanted to group these by low priced items and by high priced items. Well, again, we can just select the values that we want to select and we can group these values together. So group selection, and it's grouped these together. We can call these low price. And we could group these three together here. And we could call these high priced, although they're not very high. And quite easily then we can create our own groupings within our pivot tables. And again, when we create a grouping like this, we get a new field in our pivot table field list. Now I'm going to look at some calculations now in a couple of minutes and you're going to see that you can set up calculated sets And this works kind of like this, except for when you set up a calculated set, an additional field isn't added into your pivot table field list. So let us just come back out of this and make a little bit better of a pivot table. We will put in our customers, we will put in our region, and we will just put in our quantity. Now I'm going to remove the region out of there. I'm going to put in quantity, I'm going to put in cost, and I am going to put in sales price. Now in our original data set, we have quantity, as you can see, we have costs, and we have sales price. But we don't have the total cost, and we don't have the total sales value. Now we could go back to our original data set, and in our original data set, we could add a few more columns, we could carry out some calculations, and we could add in a few more columns to our data set, or we could add some calculated fields to our pivot tables. So a calculated field, if anybody is familiar with DAX, works very, very like DAX. It works on calculating values based on columns rather than cell references. So let's try and calculate our cost, our total cost, and that would be our quantity multiplied by our cost price. To do this, we could go from our pivot table analyze ribbon to field items and sets. And in field items and sets, we can add calculated fields. When we select calculated fields, what we get is a list of all of the fields that are available in our data set. Now you'll notice additional fields that we created earlier on with our groupings are still available in here if we wish to use them for further calculations. We're going to call this total cost. And we're going to carry out a calculation on fields. So our total cost is going to be quantity. So if we select quantity from our field and put this into the formula by selecting insert field, and we want to multiply this by our cost price, insert field, and say add. That didn't add. Say okay. There we go. And we have the sum of our total cost. So we now have our total cost in our pivot table. We would no longer, in this case, actually need our cost price because we have our total cost in. So we can remove out our cost price. And we can go ahead then and do another calculation to calculate the actual total sales. So if we go into calculated fields, and in calculated fields, we can call this total sales. If we go down to, we are going to take our quantity, we're going to multiply this by our sales price and say okay. And now we have our total sales value. We can use these fields then in further calculations. So if we want to calculate the gross profit, for example, we could go back in and do another calculated field, and we'll call this GP. And our GP would be our total sales, which is the field that we have just calculated. So it was not originally in our data set. And we can minus our total cost. And that is going to give us our total gross profit. We would no longer need our quantity. We would no longer need our sales price. And then we have our total cost, we have our total sales, and we also have our gross profit. And none of this data was originally available in our original data set. Now this doesn't look very nice, so we would tend to do some formatting on our data. Now, the natural thing to do would be to go to the home ribbon and to select your different formattings from the home ribbon. But when you're working with pivot tables, and if you update the pivot table, you can lose your formatting if you don't set up your formatting correctly. So if we go into if we right click and bring up our menu, show value as, I'm going to go into more options. And in more options, I'm going to select our number formats. And this brings up our format dialog box, and we can select currency in here. And I'm just going to say okay to that one. and it has formatted these values now to currency for us. Again, if we didn't want, or if we wanted to format them all at once, if we selected them all at once, show value as, more options, number format, currency for them all. Let's show no decimal places, and you'll see these first ones here will change back to no decimal places, and say okay. And why didn't these other ones update? I'll just go back in there again. I want 0 decimal places. Okay, you have to, I never realized I had to do one column at a time. I don't think I've ever had to do one column at a time before, but this is happening to me now. So again, show value as, more options, number format, currency, 0 decimal places, and say okay. Now I went in through there by right clicking. Alternatively, you can also go in from your pivot table field list, and you can change it from in here. So if you select any of the fields in here, value field settings, and your number formats, and you can go in and you can change your number formatting in here as well. Now, there's also some other calculations that you can do that aren't as complex as this. These are predefined type of calculations that are set up using pivot tables. And you can also find these if you go back in here to your show value as option. And in the show value as option, you're given a lot of choices here. So we have no calculation at the moment because it's using the aggregation as a sum aggregation. Okay, and there's no overall calculation being carried out on the actual aggregation. But then you can change things to show them as a percentage of grand total, show as a percentage of row totals, column totals, parent totals, and so forth. So if we were to show this value as a percentage of grand total, it's going to run into the background. Now we're carrying these out on calculated fields. Has my Excel just crashed? Oh.
Looking that way.
Okay, it's opening back up. Sorry about that.
It happens to all of us.
Yeah, typical that it will happen to me. I would say what has happened there is because I always have resource problems on my computer for some reason, because I have calculated fields in there. So I'm going to remove out those calculated fields that we calculated earlier on. And I'm just going to add in our quantity again. Okay. From our quantity, we have sum of quantity in here. I'm going to go into a value field settings, and I'm going to go back into show value as. Now, this show value as screen is slightly different to what I showed you before, but it basically gives you the exact same options. So we can show our value as a percentage of a grand total. So we'll say, okay. And we can see now we have the percentage of the grand total. So we can see fun days sold 15% of the total quantity sold altogether. We can also, so I'll go back in this way by right clicking and show value as, and we could change this if we had columns, we could change it to show the total of the column and so forth. But I'm going to go back to no calculation, and hopefully it won't crash. It's going to crash. Dun, 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 dun. Oh. So in the meantime, I'll sing Jingle Bells. Jingle bells, jingle all the way.
Yeah, good tonight. Oh, look at all those recoveries.
Oh. Okay, I'm going to have to quickly set up a new pivot table. And in our pivot table, we will put in our customers, and again, we'll just put in a quantity or something like this. So that was the show values of. I do apologize that my Excel was crashing on that one. In addition to show value, the show value as, we can also show the value different aggregations of our data. Now, again, you can do this by right-clicking, and when you right-click, you can summarize values by, and this is where you can change the different aggregations that are available on PivotTables. Now, I told you earlier the default was sum. You can add in here the count. So now we can see the Fun Days actually made 209 sales. The Best Shop Ever made 251. But you might want to be able to sort this. Now, the default setting is alphabetical on these. So if we right click on any of the columns, and from that column, if we select sort, and we can select largest to smallest, and that way we can set our default, or change the default into something that makes more sense to us. So if we wanted to see from the highest to the lowest, we can quickly use the sort option for that. Now, if we go back into our summarize value by, in addition to using the count, you can use the average, and this is going to calculate the average for us. We can summarize values by the mean, by the max, by the product, and then we also have our more options down here. Now, we got into that by right-clicking. Down in our values field, if we go into value field setting, we have summarize value by, and the summarize value by can also be changed quickly from within here. We just change it quickly back to count. So that is basically working with pivot tables. But now that we have pivot tables set up and we get them into the format that we want users to be able to not have to understand how to set up pivot tables all the time. We might want to give a pivot table to our boss or to our line manager, or maybe from our line manager down to us, that they don't need to know how to use pivot tables, but they can flick through different types of settings and data in it. And in this case, we can use things like slicers and timelines. Now, slicers and timelines are great for when you're creating dashboards because they add that element of interaction to your spreadsheets. So a slicer, if we go to our pivot table analyze ribbon and select insert slicer, once we select this, it's going to bring up all of the fields that are available to us in our original data set. So we can see that we have all the exact same fields that we see in our pivot table field list that we also have in our slicers. Now, it wouldn't make sense to add in slicers for the likes of quantity or numerical values, unless numerical values have been grouped together into more categorical type values. So it's really categorical type things that you want to use slicers for. For example, we could put in customers, regions, types, and products, and just select OK. And once we put these in, we have these little slicers that we can move around our screen, put them wherever we want. And by clicking on any of these are going to filter our pivot table for us. Now, if we have a pivot table and a pivot chart as well, it's also going to slice the pivot chart for us. If we were to set up a second pivot table, so let me take a copy of this pivot table, and I'm just going to paste it down here. And if we change the slicers, we see that this now works on both pivot tables. It works on both pivot tables because I've made a copy of a pivot table and I haven't set up a new pivot table. If, however, you have set up new pivot tables and you want them all to work off the one slicer, if you right-click on the slicer, you have the report connections. In report connections, then you then have the option to select which pivot tables, and if you had pivot charts, which pivot charts it is that are controlled by the actual slicers. And you can do this for each slicer. Now, just a good note of practice, I didn't name these pivot tables, and when you're working with a lot of pivot tables in a dashboard or pivot charts in a dashboard, looking at pivot table 1, pivot table 2, you're not going to have any idea what each of these pivot tables are. So let me just step back a second, and we're going to select one of these pivot tables. And from our pivot table analyze ribbon, we can rename the pivot table to something more appropriate. Now, let's show you where. Over here in pivot table name, we could call this, what was this? Customers, for example. So now if we were to go into our report connections, we can see that the pivot tables are much easier to identify by using actual names rather than using the default pivot table 1, pivot table 2, and so forth. Now with the slicers, we can see here I have only one item selected. We can clear it by pressing this little X box here. We can also multi-select items by pressing the control when we're clicking on the box. And by using this, we can clear the multi-selection and set up the option for multi-selection as well. So we can just clear these. Now we can see over here in our product, so we have selected a number of customers, but in this slicer over here, this last product is grayed out. And when something is grayed out like this on a pivot table, it means that with the current selection, that option is not actually available. Now, also with slicers, you get a slicers ribbon. And let's have a look at the slicers ribbon. So the slicers ribbon will allow us to customize our slicers a little bit more. So we can change the colors of our slicers in here. Again, we can also change the report connections that we looked at a minute ago. And then we can also change the number of columns that we have. So let us put in 4 columns. And we'll see this one has now changed to having 4 columns. We only had 3 in it, I didn't need 4. But it'll move it across in columns instead of having them laid down in rows. So again, it'll allow you to customize your slicers the way you want the slicers to show. I'm just going to move these over here for a moment. And I know we're getting a little short on time, but what I want to do is quickly throw in a pivot chart. So I've just selected this one pivot table. From this one pivot table, I am going to insert a pivot chart. And I'm just going to insert this first recommended chart. Now, when you have a pivot chart, your slicers are also going to work with the pivot charts and with the pivot tables. Now, you'll get these drop downs on your slicers as well. And using the drop downs, you can change the filter features too. But it's quite often best, I find, to just turn these off and allow people work with the slicers so you don't add all that element of confusion. So to do that, if you right click and select hide all field buttons on chart, and that's going to remove all the field buttons and make the chart look like a standard chart rather than a pivot chart. Now, one thing to note about pivot charts is that not all charts available in Excel are actually available as pivot charts. If you want to use pivot table data in a chart that's not available for pivot charts, you're going to have to set up helper columns, and you're going to have to consider whether you want to use your get pivot data or not use your get pivot data. Get pivot data, just to quickly show you, if you were to reference a cell, I have my get pivot data turned off. Just hold on for 1 second. In my options, should we turn back on now? If you select any cell in a pivot data, you get this ugly get pivot data formula, but this can be of crucial importance if you're running the likes of, if you're going to be changing things around in your pivot tables and you're running dashboards with charts that aren't standard pivot charts. So the get pivot data is always turned on unless you actually turn it off. So to show you how to turn it on and off, it is in your pivot table analyze, under your options, and generate get pivot data. When this is turned off, so when you don't need to reference a get pivot data, when it's turned off, if you link in, you just get the cell reference. So I think that was a little bit rushed there at the end, but I know we are going to be jumping into a quiz. So I think I've given a fairly rounded view of pivot tables. I hope that you found it useful. We will open up to some questions, if there's any.
Questions, team? Anyone got a question?
One thing how do you prevent the user from changing the view? Most of the focus is on being able to change the view. But if you've written a long screed assessing charts saying, the volume of sales in the Argentine, and then when you come to look at it, it's showing the value in marks in Germany, or sorry, in euros in Germany, it's, the chart will have lost its point somewhat.
You can, I'm not sure. You've put me on the spot now, Peter. Table analyze, go into my options. I'm not too sure.
Okay, I'll leave it with you. Let me try another one. If you've got the chart and you've got it all color coded for your individual shops, and then for a given sales item that shop disappears, how can you ensure that the color codes stay with the shop?
Peter, why are you asking me difficult questions?
Oh yeah. Okay, I'll go and hide.
The only day I come into something unprepared, and then that's what I said at the start. I'm going to be heckled now because I came in unprepared. Have you got the solution for that handy?
A bad one that I use get pivot data and I extract it, and then I have a non-pivot, a chart that isn't a pivot table.
Yeah.
Pivot charts.
And you'd use the get pivot data.
It's a nasty workaround. I replace the hardwired categories with arrays so that I have an array get pivot data. But I can't help feeling I'm rather losing the point of.
Yeah, no, I don't think you are losing the point, to be honest with you. No, I don't think you are losing the point. I think that is the only workaround. Off the top of my head, I can't think of any other workaround other than have helper columns.
Right, yeah. Yes, I had one. I helped out on a contract, and the clients wanted 980 sheets of pivot tables so that they could just turn to the tab to see a given. And of course, none of the pivot tables were necessarily stayed as they were set up. And yeah, I looked at it and thought, isn't this contrary to the purpose of a pivot table? Shouldn't I have one and, rather than 900? But
rather than 900, have one and then produce the reports. You have the option to produce show report filter page if you had used filters on it, which is in your options, and that would show an individual page, which shows if you drill through, it kind of gives you this type of information, not a pivot table.
Yeah. I can tell you another bit of grief I had. Because I don't use cell addresses, I don't show the grid. And to get rid of the grid, I changed the normal style to a color, pale gray, something really adventurous. And that meant that whenever I put a slicer up, it was on a black background and looked dreadful. So then I started customizing my slicers, and it took me all day, and I didn't. Yeah, that's because it seems that you've got to go through every option and set it up individually.
And set it up individually, yes, you do.
Ah, okay. That's yes.
Yeah. It's laborious.
Okay, right.
Especially if you're making 96 pivot tables.
Right. Yes. Oh well, thank you for the
Sorry, I couldn't save you some time.
Peter, did the pivot tables all come from the same data source?
Pretty much. I'd merged it. I'd read two data sources in together and appended them. And so
just remember what Paula did earlier when she created a pivot table with some slicers on it, and then she copied the pivot table, and it was still connected to the slicers. So the copy was connected. So you could do the same with your formatting. So set it up with one, get the formatting right on one of them, and then copy it multiple times, and then just change the field settings in each.
Let me see if
that works. Because what I had was, it was when on a particular chart, there was a category that was missing. Then the colors of the categories above dropped down and adopted the colors. And since I'd spent a lot of effort putting it in corporate logo colors, it was a little bit disappointing to have them presented in their competitors' colors.
You can't really, when you copy a slicer, when you formatted a slicer and you copied the slicer, which I've just done here, it give you the same slicer though. You're going to need slicers for different categories. So you'd have two. Let's say we just formatted the customer slicer. Can I reshare my screen? Hold on for a second. Share screen. So I had formatted this particular slicer here. So when I copy and paste this one, you're literally getting the same slicer again. You're not getting the other slicers that you need.
Yeah, what I was referring to is the style within the pivot table or the chart. So if you copy the chart, once you put a style on the chart. So if you put a style on the chart and then copy that, it'll have the same styles. But I understand what you're saying is that if you have an extra field or a missing field, then it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And of course, when you do a data refresh, then it just smashes everything out of existence. It tells you really ought to be using the defaults and you've got no right to muck it up.
Yeah. I can see Oz's hat.
Yeah, me too.
Isn't your hat usually fancier though?
Oh, it's camouflage. That's why you can't see it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Anyway.
Not the Oriental number today.
Paula, is that your Christmas jumper?
Oh no, do you know what? I had planned on wearing a Christmas jumper and I had planned on wearing white reindeer ear things, and then my whole day got blown up and things just went horribly wrong for me, and that just went out the window. But I did sing Jingle Bells earlier.
I was waiting to see someone wear a Snuggie on here.
And we have it recorded, Paula.
Oh, that was on YouTube and all. No.
I will clip it and use it as leverage.
Here we go.
Whenever I need something.
Mean.
Right. Thanks, Paula.
No problem.
Yeah.
Cool. Alan, let me know when I should paste the link in the chat and we can get the quiz started.
Oh, yeah.
So just to let everybody know, there are 15 multiple choice questions. We're going to give you guys 5-6 minutes to enter your responses. And then once you submit, I think we're going to need a couple of minutes just to download all the results and announce the winner. So in the beginning, the first question is just to enter your name. If you don't want to enter your name, just skip it. But then it will be a little bit difficult for us to give you the prize. But yeah,
put my name.
If there's any questions, feel free to put them in the chat.
Are you going to put it in?
Yeah.
People have to raise their hand or what?
No, so I'm going to share a link. So I've just shared it in the chat. If you guys want to open it, and then there will be an option to start as soon as you're ready. Alan, do we have a timer? And how much?
Oh, I don't have time to use the timer.
We start as soon as you tell us. So.
Yeah, whenever Alan's ready, he's going to give the go ahead.
What are we doing? 5 minutes?
What do you think?
We'll do 6.
Okay.
I don't trust these cats. That's right. Go team. Quiz away.
Really?
They're nice, easy.
God. No idea.
Boy.
I just noticed you've got your X lookup shirt on as well.
Oz, I done fairly good on your LinkedIn quiz, but I tell you this one.
No,
Not easy, but it's because you guys are all very advanced. And
This is real
Oh,
assessment.
That's like,
You can put this on your LinkedIn profile as well.
right.
Is everyone else just guessing like I am?
yeah.
I really think I'm going to get last place on this.
There's going to be a lot of competition there.
Yeah. You got to earn it.
I think the winner's going to get about 5. Maybe
Get
6.
them all, Brent.
Oh, come on.
There's no office scripts questions for Brent.
Damn it.
Damn it, Bobby.
This is really bad.
Alan, how much time do they have?
Oh, we've got 4 minutes yet.
Okay.
How many questions are there? Do we go to question 105 or?
No, there's
16.
15 questions. 15.
15. Basically, yeah.
Oh, you can retake. I only got 9.
9 is really good, Paula.
That's really bad.
Setting the benchmark.
Well done.
Now you asking for asking about functions that are dead to me. I hate them.
No, what? What's that?
Oakley's looking really serious there. Concentrating hard.
Quiz link. One more time, if anybody needs it.
Oh, I know what question Oz is referring to.
Wasn't around in June.
Yeah.
So if we retake this, do we still get like to go?
Oh, Dad. Well, at least people are smiling.
Alan, I'll let you stop whenever the time.
Yeah,
and then maybe you can share the other extra nice questions, the special ones, while we're while we're reviewing the results.
Yeah, the special ones, yeah, where they get a stick and lead you into the back room. That's where they keep the special questions.
Someone's getting their lumps this year.
Dress up in an orange suit.
Yeah, I scored only 9 too.
If I can tie you, then I think I'm happy.
Well, I didn't win.
I'll wait a few more minutes before I
bet Alan's going to win.
Hey, Oakley, I gotta know. This has been bugging me. What is that building in the background?
That's the Spinnaker Tower.
Oh.
In Portsmouth.
Alan, I hope you're not participating.
I'm not, no.
Okay, we have 28 people.
I'll probably get 9 as well.
He's doing it with a fake name. I've got question 1.
The Woodpecker one.
I didn't know Mickey Mouse was in this.
I didn't get any of them little images. What?
Yeah, Alan's buttons.
You use too many keyboard shortcuts. That's it.
I won't be asking you to review any of the quizzes when given to students, that's for sure.
Maybe that's why my students all failed their exams recently. Too hard.
There's 37 responses so far.
Cool. Well, got 50 seconds.
50 seconds. Okay. Nice.
Oh, I had time to go back and do it
That
again.
was a lot of time.
Oh, we could have done it again.
And it's all virtual, so you guys have all the
Totally. Was it 16 out of 15?
16 out of 15.
I'm just Googling everything there. Look, he's gone Googling all the answers.
I didn't get time to study for this.
Highest MVP score and highest normal person score. That's really mean because I only got 9.
Does that imply people who aren't MVPs are normal, or that MVPs are normal?
MVPs are normal. It's not normal either. It's normal.
What about if you're not an MVP and you're also not normal?
Something. Oh, signals the end. We've run out of time.
Amazing.
Normal?
I will download the results. Alan, you can share your screen and do the rest, and I will be back in a second.
You can't Google it. You have to Bing.
Should have gone slower.
Hang on.
Did anybody miss all of them? That's all I want to know.
Almost.
Didn't get that. Right, what am I doing?
I've got more than half.
1 a.m. in India, that's an excuse.
Reg, you've got 9, I think, no? You do right. Ilgar's got 9. Krista's got 10.
Okay, what the winner will get?
Right. I've got a few more questions while Taya compiles the report.
What?
These ones don't matter. This is just something to do while we wait for Taya to...
-1.
-1. You're going to produce a pivot table from them. Nice little chart.
I created my own question and got it wrong.
We've got some questions on Excel functions in some song titles. Answers you can just call out or put in the chat.
What?
Can you see my screen okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. The answer to everything is lambda.
That's not an easy word to get into a song title. You have to do that. Take care of that, Brent. So, Queen song. What's the function?
Yeah, that's all right. Now.
It's not necessarily a worksheet function. For those of you who do some DAX.
Switch.
It's not now.
All.
Yeah.
All. Okay.
All right. Next up, got.
Wait a minute. What? I don't get it.
You don't get it? It's a Queen song.
Right.
I want it all, and the 3 underscores. An Excel function will replace that. So what Excel function?
So those are letters, not words. Okay.
Yes, letters. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
Okay.
Next one's easy as the ones on the end. So ignore the asterisks. I've just done that to make it a bit harder.
Ceiling.
Yeah. Ceiling function. Yeah, mentioned ceiling in the chat as well. Right, next up, ready? No one's ready. Oh, Meatloaf one.
Sin.
Yeah, well done, whoever you're that Sin.
It's Aaron from Atlanta.
Hey.
Aaron from Atlanta.
Yeah, sin function. Right, next up, ready team?
No.
Oh dear, listen to that. Oasis song. So it's the underscore ones, not the stars. You don't know the Oasis songs? You don't know that?
Not
3 letters.
familiar with the Oasis.
Let it.
Go let.
Yeah, let. That's it. Let is the missing function. So you've got one recent one, no lambda, but let in there. Right, next up. That was Presley.
Now.
Yeah, now. Very quick. Right, next up. Lincoln Park. This is a tough one. This is not a worksheet function. I've put in a D in to help. So it's a 6-letter function.
I do know the band Linkin Park. But Linkin Park? Not too familiar with Linkin Park.
Which album is this from? Glass?
I don't know.
All right, you know this stuff, Dan. I don't got no idea.
Is it order? Something like that?
No order.
Divide.
Yeah. Who said that? Yelford Divide, was that? Yeah, New Divide.
Wow.
Oh.
Next up. I spanned all bad. This is the same function. Same word twice.
Round.
Yeah.
Round and round.
I'm
the British voice coming in for Spandau Ballet there. I think there's probably only one more. Is there one more? Yeah, last one. 2 functions.
It's not right.
3 letters and 5 letters.
Not right.
Sorry, I just caught who said that. Yeah, that's right. Whoever said that.
Yeah, it's not right.
Yeah. Is that you, Brent?
Yeah, it is.
Yay.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's not right. 2
Are
functions.
you a Whitney fan, Brent?
Absolutely not. I just.
No, I think you might be. You got that so fast.
Oh, dear. Oh, dear.
Fan of the year.
No. It's just the late 90s. Just the late 90s.
That's it. That's the
last century, anyway.
Song titles.
Amazing. Can we have some winners as well?
Got a few, Tara?
Well, so we actually have 2 people who have scored 13 out of 15, which is amazing. Well done. One of them doesn't have a name. So whoever they are, they can put their name in the chat. But then the next person is somebody that all of us know. And it's actually for us. So congratulations. So for us, you need to send us your address because we'll be sending you a special Happy Holidays t-shirt branded with the London Excel Meetup.
Yeah.
All
right. But yeah, we don't know who the other person is.
You can send me that gift, No problem.
You did it twice. You had so much time on
it. And then 3rd place for Oakley, the only person with 12. So congratulations, Oakley. To you
Oakley was really concentrating.
You wanted to take it twice.
Okay.
Awesome. Well, that was fun, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
Oh. There you go.
Oh, well done, Fraz.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm following your channel, I'm regularly attending the meetup, that's the result, End of the year. So you pass the exam.
That's it. Fraz, one of our presenters this year. Is it June or July you did? Something like that?
Yeah, it was in June, yeah.
June, was it?
Oh, great.
Yeah, I tried to do a bit of fun.
So which are the wrong ones? Which are the ones which went wrong?
What's that for yourself, Fraz?
I'll double check and let you know after for us.
Yeah, that one that had switch and ifs in there. That's the one that was dead to me. I hate both of those functions.
I thought you were referring to the match one when you said that.
Yes, make your name on match. Well, VLOOKUP, wasn't it, really?
Oh, do you want me to go through the answers Vicky's mentioned about?
Yeah, go on. Seems I got so many wrong.
Right.
I'm going to stick with Oz's quizzes from now on.
Oh, all right. All right.
I haven't seen Ozzy, so I can't comment on them.
No? Okay.
Not yet. I saw the call out for the LinkedIn assessment. But...
Alan, if you want, you can click the link again and then share your screen and we can go through.
That's right. I've got them on a thingy here. This is assuming that I can do it myself.
Yeah. You're going to be typing them in, are they, live?
It was all just made up.
If you've got it, let's switch to it.
Hey. Switch is one.
That one was for you, Oz.
What? All right. Okay.
It's dead to him. He didn't even notice. Yeah, that's a tricky one. Come on. 26. There should be.
I said 28.
The current asking for lookup and reference. What's next? Data Explorer. What do you reckon, guys?
Oh, Pivot.
Power Query.
Yeah, Power Query. Yeah.
Safety. Or Pivot. Yes.
Cool. There you go. Renamed in 2013.
Yeah, I've still got videos out there showing Data Explorer.
I did.
That's
showing how long you've been doing it here, Oz. Did not first appear, so it appeared later. I believe. I don't mind. Well, you guys are going to tell me I'm wrong now, but just my response. Sparklines.
Woo!
Was 2010. Everything else came out in 2007.
Didn't know SumIfs was that old.
But yeah, 2007, they changed the game, didn't they? They brought out everything then. Average if came out then as well. Excel buttons.
I didn't get any of them.
That's text to columns.
Yeah, text to columns, yeah.
Although they show it as text to rows in the button.
Looks at those darn buttons.
What's that about the buttons, Oz? What are you saying?
I don't even look at those buttons. I just know I can read. My glasses work. It says text to columns right there. It's pivot table.
It says from
table / range. Right.
It says put it in the filing cabinet.
Right, exactly.
Next time you do Excel trivia, you know better.
Right. Yeah.
So you must have a big screen. You don't a little screen, you lose all the words.
Yeah, 2 40-inch monitors.
I know. Yeah.
All right.
Go off.
All right, next question.
Who got this one?
Select visible.
Yeah, select visible.
Tic-tac-toe.
He knows his buttons. Next up.
Oh, I knew that one.
PivotTable. You should have done.
Yeah.
I was thinking it's transpose. If you'd put that up, I would have got.
Right, yes. That's what I was looking for.
Paula, did you get it right this one?
Huh? I got that one. That's the only one I got. The only one I got.
Now, see, this isn't good. This is not good because now we're going to see Faraz knows his buttons.
Let's press Faraz's button.
That's what it says on the t-shirt.
That's getting worse, Paula.
Sorry, Faraz.
You have to reach all the way to Saudi, you know.
Ooh, love Faraz. Oh, what's that one?
Set print area.
Yeah. Oh, I see how fast Faraz was then. Excel functions. Do you know your functions?
Yes.
What's that?
Match.
Yeah, match.
Well.
Next up.
Narrow switch.
Yeah. Look at Ozzy's face. Look at that.
I knew what it was. I got that one right. But I said, God damn, y'all wouldn't.
It's missing the bit in front of it which says switch.
I've never been good at cropping, Oakley. Never been good.
Damn, Oakley's on fire.
This sort.
Yeah, sword.
Yep.
This is
Network days.
network.
The hardest one.
Is that
What was
Workday
it?
International?
Workday.
Yeah, Workday, yeah.
Workday, yes.
That's one.
That one.
So that's probably the hardest one because they're quite similar, those functions and questions. Cool, yeah, that one's Workday. Workday International would have a fourth argument.
Yeah.
Network days.
I use lot of these functions, so I remember them very well.
And we were talking about weekdays in the chat, weren't we, earlier? There's a mention of week numbing there.
Week num, yeah.
Yeah. Right, we've got. Next up is the meetup ones, isn't it? Hope you guys know your Excel meetup.
Yeah.
Gaspers, what did he? Hang on, the question's wrong there. I'm copying them. What did Gasper talk about? Was it?
Power Query.
It was list.
Power Query lists. That was it.
Power Query, yeah, that's it.
Excel.
Excel tips and tricks.
Yeah, tips and tricks.
Yes.
I don't know because I wasn't here. That's my excuse.
Excel dashboards.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, dashboards for Chandu and May. And Abiola?
Modern Excel features.
Modern Excel.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
for us,
that's a
which
bit-
one did you get wrong?
So
I got the first two.
The first two, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, the first one was a potluck one, really, wasn't it?
The first one was just a guess, then the second one, I never know it was called data.
The first one was to get your name.
I
got that one wrong and you're still winning the t-shirt.
Oh, nice.
Oz, did you have a tie attached to your hat earlier? Or am I just noticing that?
No, this is a part of Mongolian hats.
Oh.
It's a common thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Thought I'm seeing things or something.
All of them.
Everyone, I have to go. My little fella is making his confirmation in a few days, and it's got cancelled a few times because of COVID. So the confirmation clothes that we bought from in February don't fit him. So I need to go out on a rush shopping trip and buy my son some confirmation clothes because we only got this notification the other day. So I have to love yous and leave yous all. Thank you all very much.
Are they
Alan,
special?
Thank you.
Paula.
Brilliant.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Paula.
Paula.
Thanks, Paula.
Right.
Take it easy.
Thank you,
Bye.
Paula. It was
Bye.
great.
Bye.
Thank you.
Confirmation clothes.
Yeah.
For people
What
who
do
are
those
allowed
look
to
like?
leave their house.
What do confirmation clothes look like?
I'm just dressing up smart, I think.
Oh, okay. All right.
He's probably being sized up. He's a grown boy. I think he's 13, that boy.
I'm going to have to make my apologies to Paula, aren't I? I'm just pouring out all the things about pivot tables that have given me grief in the past.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was tough questions.
There you go.
Thanks, Vic. Welcome.
I still wonder who Roz's rival is.
I'm leaving too.
Hey,
See you next year.
See you, buddy.
Bye-bye.
See you next
All right.
year.
You're going to miss the pie. We're going to have some pie. Come on.
It's another Excel function.
Aaron, you can start passing out the pie now.
Alan, do you get an extra point if you find a song with lambda in it?
Have you got one of you?
There's lambada.
It could do. Is it spelt the same at the start?
It's LAMBADA.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. I've just Googled, there's a Revenge of the Nerds, Lambda, Lambda, Lambda. There you go.
Oh, yeah, somebody mentioned that. I read someone talk about that.
I'll be holding the meetup next means on 12th, my first meetup for Saudi Arabia.
We will be there for us.
Thank you.
So, 12th of what, Fres?
Again, Ken will be talking about building reports, models, on the Power Query, and he'll be showing some about the Monkey tool as well.
Oh, yeah, Ken said it.
Yeah.
Cool. New meetup.
Yeah.
By the quiz winner.
Question for y'all.
Great.
Where'd Taya?
You doing it over Teams, Fres, or Zoom?
Actually, Ken is helping me in organizing that. So he's actually had arranged on his Teams channel. So I will be exploring, now for the next meetups, to do it on Zoom.
Yeah.
So we can reach to a broader audience. We can spread the message of Excel to everyone.
Yes, indeed.
Yes.
Yes, I'm hoping to do that. Like asking about.
To continue streaming.
Yeah, whether it's online, in person. That's the plan, isn't it, Taya? To do it in person and stream it to YouTube, but also to hopefully do some online ones as well.
Is there a way you could somehow like simulcast it where it's still streaming real time?
Yeah, that's what I'm not sure how we're going to do it, but that's what we're hoping.
Yeah, I think you'd need to have someone running a camera at the back.
Maybe like a live chat feed too or something. I don't know.
Taya would be busy.
Tara and I were talking about it like back in February before all this stuff happened. We were trying to stream it, but then all this happened.
All the phrases we've learned that we're not going to be able to use though when we go back to doing it live, like saying to someone you're on mute doesn't make sense when you're face to face.
You can try. We need a button for that, don't we?
If you ask somebody to go on mute, you'd be like,
Yeah, I'll miss that mute button so much doing tasks.
You might not get the same reception.
Well, there'll be a use for masks.
A new use.
I always used to think that all babies ought to come with a mute button. That it'd be a good survival characteristic.
Have you not heard of Jin?
Oh. And I noticed that one of Faraz and Taya live together.
If you guys didn't know, that's the latest news.
Next to that bridge.
Next to the bridge. that condo by the bridge. Right.
I think we should take a picture, This will be always, yeah, it will be always, that we are together. Great.
Yeah, I'm going to head off. So have a lovely Christmas and everything, everybody.
Where are you, Leslie?
Croydon.
Where?
Croydon.
UK.
In the UK also.
UK, yeah.
Okay. All right.
On the way to Brighton, if that helps.
We're on the way to East London.
Okay.
Gatwick Airport.
Yeah. Probably best landmark.
But from that nice country called Scotland.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
Cool. Have a nice.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
Yeah, Alan, you should sing Baker Street for us.
You don't want that.
Taya, y'all are in London, right? It's a good song.
It's okay.
Where are you at, Oz?
I am in Portland, Oregon.
Oh, nice.
Where are you? Huh?
Alabama.
Okay. Yeah. I've been to Dothan.
Yeah, there's not a lot to do around here. It's kind of a boring state.
Well, there's peanut farms.
Well, yeah, that's true. We also Cajun, come on down.
Yeah.
Also, we did create the rockets to take us to the moon, so we got that.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, Brent Allen is here.
Good show.
I've been here the whole time.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, I got to see Baker Street while I was there. Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't seen him on camera. I think that's what it is.
Cool.
You're in a different position to the other day, Brent, when I saw you on the other meetup.
Yeah, I'm in a different room.
Yeah.
That one is more of the gotta stay away from the kids. Can't have like a 4-year-old running in there. You know.
Not until we get a mute button.
There's no mute button for a 4-year-old.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
And I can guarantee it'll be at like the worst possible time and he'll say the worst possible thing.
The other morning, I think my little girl was 6. I spoke to me for about 90 minutes non-stop. Oh, it's exhausted.
Yeah, my daughter was on a meeting with her senior management. Little boy turns up, "Mummy, I need a wee." The whole lot dissolves into chaos.
Yeah.
What is that meetup you're talking about?
Fraz's meetup.
Oh, is it for a different reactor or something you're just doing?
It's for Fraz. It's just created his own meetup group.
The Excel Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, for Saudi Arabia, and I'll be even trying to get from Power Automate and Power Apps. So I'll be taking that platform also over here. So there's a lot of work to be done over here, buddy.
Okay.
A lot of Excel people.
Yeah. We need to get all the Avengers on board.
Yeah.
Excel Avengers.
Power Apps and Power Automate. That's a rabbit hole. Oh man, you can go way too deep.
It's a rabbit hole I've stayed away from so far, apart from your presentations.
Yeah, you can go way, way, way too deep down that rabbit hole.
Okay, is that tower looks like a Dubai tower? Is the Dubai tower in the background?
It's not. It's the Spinnaker tower, but it was designed to look like it, and looked like a Spinnaker sail as well. But it's sponsored by Emirates, the airline. And there's a funny story because when they offered Portsmouth Council the money to sponsor it, they wanted to paint it in Emirates colours, which is red. And local people in Portsmouth said, if you paint it red, we're going to burn it down. Because red is the football colour for Southampton, which is Portsmouth's big rivals. So they didn't paint it red, they painted it blue and gold. And in fact, when they first painted the gold, it looked yellow. So everyone started calling it the IKEA Tower.
Is Portsmouth in England or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right on the south coast.
I'm so used to hearing so many English accents now, I don't even really notice anymore.
I thought you were English by your accent.
Oh, really? I need to catch up on your country right now, then.
Maybe I'm watching too many peanut picking videos on YouTube.
Hey, come on now. We're talking about the heart of Dixie and the Crimson Tide. Sorry, if you follow American football.
That's college football, though.
Man, that's where it's at anyway. Who cares about the NFL? I only say that because we don't have an NFL team, really.
That's what all cities without an NFL team say.
You have a complete.
All we do is play fantasy because we have neither college nor.
Well, where are you from, Brent?
Toronto.
Oh,
Toronto.
Canada.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our
You got a tower.
Yeah, we got some.
They do have a tower. Got to have a tower.
Yeah. You ever go out and see Drake?
Oh no.
No, you don't see Drake.
He's kind of the, please go and spread the word that we're good, but we don't actually listen to you. Nobody here listens to you. We don't like it.
Okay. All right.
Gotta ask, what about Justin Bieber? You look like a guy who likes Justin Bieber.
Oh, he's from Stratford. He's from Stratford, not Toronto. So we have nothing to do with him.
Whitney Houston, that's Brent's bag.
Oh dear, no.
All
The
right.
bodyguard.
Oh dear God. Reminding me of high school.
That not good.
Repressed memories. Terrible repressed memories.
Yeah.
Did it involve a sequin dress?
If it did, then I repressed it really well.
What's going on?
Okay, who's got a dog?
Nah.
Someone's got a dog. Now you got to show him.
No. Dogs.
I'm guessing that's Alan.
It might be a lot.
Yeah.
Well, this has been fun, but y'all have a happy holiday.
Better move on. Cheers, buddy.
So, wait, when are we going to start meeting again, though? Is it going to be in January, right?
Yeah, 13th. Next one.
Yep.
Okay, because now I got to look at Faraz's since he's put that link in the chat.
Yeah. What, 4 days?
Where did that go?
Just drop it again.
Yeah, just a little bit further up. Yeah, he's just put it in again.
Oh, okay, here we go. Cool. All right, then, y'all. Take it easy.
Cheers, buddy.
Have a good one.
Right.
See
Happy
you.
holidays, Merry Christmas, whatever you celebrate.
Cheers, mate.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Mellow.
Okay, team, should we start rounding it off?
Yeah, happy
We close
holidays,
the
everyone.
YouTube stream is still going.
We will see you next year.